While exploring the mysterious depths of ancient history, scholars often came across cryptic relics, among which lie manuscripts that continue to defy the most skilled scholars and linguists. The origins of early writing are still an enduring mystery in the world, but they do not give up on one day understanding their secrets. After all, unraveling these ancient instruction manuals isn't just a quest for translation, it's an exploration of lost languages and forgotten knowledge. So join us as we're going to explore some of the unexplained manuscripts left by our ancestors. The Enki tablet. The Enki tablet, hidden for millennia beneath the ancient sands of Mesopotamia, is a cuneiform relic dating back over 4,000 years. It teases scholars with a tale both recognizable and otherworldly, outlining instructions for constructing an ark that echoes the biblical story of Noah, yet with a staggering twist. Unlike the familiar Ark of the Bible, the vessel described in this ancient script is anything but conventional. The Enki tablet, named after the Sumerian deity of water, wisdom, and creation, was discovered in modern-day Iraq, a region that once thrived as Mesopotamia, the birthplace of civilization. This land, enriched by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, nurtured some of the earliest urban societies, including the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Composed in the extinct Akkadian language, the Enki tablet forms part of a wider mythological arc that includes the Epic of Gilgamesh, an ancient Mesopotamian poem considered one of the world's earliest surviving literary works. Inscribed with divine instructions from Enki, the tablet was decoded by Dr. Irving Finkel, a British Assyriologist and curator at the British Museum. What makes the Enki tablet amazing is its explicit blueprint for an ark. According to the narrative, Enki commands Atrahasis, a Sumerian king, to build an enormous vessel complete with exact dimensions and a list of materials. This story bears a strong resemblance to the biblical account of Noah's Ark, prompting scholars to consider the possibility of a shared source or a common origin for ancient flood legends. The tablet outlines a structure of massive proportions, complete with detailed specifications and a thorough inventory of resources. The Ark, as per the text, was to be a colossal, multi-tiered craft capable of surviving the catastrophic flood intended to cleanse the earth. Unlike the biblical version, this ark is not a long rectangular ship but a gigantic circular coracle. These rounded boats, often made from reeds and sealed with bitumen or asphalt, were widely used in ancient Mesopotamia. Yet, the parallels between the Enki tablet's account and the Genesis story remain uncannily strong. Both portray a world-ending flood, a chosen group of survivors, a God-given design for a boat, and the mandate to save every species. The most striking similarity lies in the 2x2 arrangement of animals described in both texts. This eerie overlap sparks profound questions. How can stories so far apart in time and geography align so precisely? The enduring enigma suggests that the myth of a lone survivor facing a deluge may be far older and more universally embedded in human memory than we ever imagined. In other words, it's simply mind-blowing. Hans Talhofer. In the history of medieval martial arts, few documents are as mysterious as Hans Talhofer's fighting manual. A 15th century fencing master, Talhofer authored a series of combat manuscripts, the most enigmatic being his 1467 creation that merges martial expertise with bewildering illustrations. This manual, more than a simple instructional guide, feels like a riddle disguised as a combat textbook, challenging modern historians and martial artists with its puzzling mix of techniques and strange depictions of combat scenarios. Born in the early 1400s, Hans Talhofer remains a shadowy figure. Very little is known about his life, but his manuscripts, particularly those produced between 1443 and 1467, serve as a trove of historical combat techniques, capturing a time when martial skill was directly tied to survival and personal honor. Some evidence suggests he was affiliated with the Marx-Bruder Fencing Guild, officially recognized by Holy Roman Emperor Frederick III. This group had the authority to bestow the title of Master of the Longsword to qualified members, which in turn allowed them to earn double the pay of a regular soldier. Talhofer's famed 1467 manual encompasses a wide range of fighting disciplines, including unarmed grappling, dagger dueling, longsword techniques, and even combat in full armor. The illustrations are vivid but often cryptic. Unlike modern training manuals, Talhofer's work is devoid of descriptive commentary, making the interpretation of each illustrated sequence intentionally ambiguous. One of the most debated illustrations is that of the so-called judicial duel. It portrays a man and a woman engaged in a formal fight within a specially prepared arena, an image that continues to spark conversations about gender roles in medieval warfare and the controversial practice of trial by combat. However, the manual's greatest puzzle may lie in its original purpose and intended audience. Was it designed as a practical guide for students of martial arts, a showcase of Talhofer's skills meant to attract noble patrons, or perhaps something more symbolic, a work of art meant to immortalize martial philosophy and technique? That ambiguity is what keeps Talhofer's work alive in discussion centuries later. His manuals are not just remnants of violent instruction, they're complex cultural artifacts, full of cryptic meaning, and still refusing to surrender all their secrets. The Malleus Maleficarum. In an era dominated by superstition and a constant dread of the unknown, there surfaced a book so menacing and influential that its reverberations still haunt us today. The Malleus Maleficarum, a title ominously translating to the Hammer of Witches, was not merely a book but a calculated tool of terror and control. Written in the late 15th century by Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Springer, this grim witch-hunting manual spread panic throughout Europe, fueling a wave of trials and brutal persecutions. Its contents, drenched in fear, misogyny, and chilling procedures, played a crucial role in igniting the witchcraft hysteria that gripped the continent. But what dark ideologies and disturbing tactics were embedded in its pages? How did a single text trigger a frenzy that reshaped history and cost thousands their lives? Well, Heinrich Kramer, an inquisitor of the Catholic Church, an office tasked with exposing, examining, and convicting heretics, compiled the Malleus Maleficarum alongside his associate Jacob Springer. Inquisitors like Kramer were notorious figures, empowered with sweeping authority to suppress religious dissent. This work emerged after Kramer's legitimacy was challenged following a failed witch trial in Innsbruck, Austria. Its publication was both retaliation and a means to enforce a systematic method for hunting so-called witches. The book is divided into 3 clear segments. The first section fiercely defends the belief in witches and magic, countering skeptics who dismissed such claims. It painted a reality where the devil actively sought to manipulate and corrupt, targeting women in particular, who the authors claimed were more vulnerable to evil influence. The second portion of the Malleus Maleficarum is arguably the most disturbing, as it lays out the strategies for identifying and interrogating witches. It listed so-called signs of witchcraft, from fortune-telling to unusual markings on the skin. Most notoriously, it endorsed torture as a justified measure to extract confessions and force the naming of accomplices. This section also categorizes various spells and magical acts, intensifying fear and spreading suspicion. The final portion outlined legal protocols for convicting and punishing witches. It operated as a handbook for executing witch trials, prioritizing public confessions and displaying a grim indifference toward legal fairness and the rights of the accused. This segment gave witch hunts a disturbing illusion of legality and righteousness. The impact of the Malleus Maleficarum was staggering. It became second only to the Bible in circulation and influence during its time. Referenced in countless witch trials, the witch craze peaked between the late 1500s and early 1600s. By the 18th century, it was linked to an estimated 40,000 to 60,000 executions, most of them women. Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is one of the most bizarre and mysterious texts ever found, packed with strange looping script and surreal drawings that no expert has been able to crack. The language used doesn't match anything known, and the more people stare at it, the deeper the mystery gets. The manuscript contains hundreds of pages filled with strange plants that don't exist, zodiac-like wheels, and pages full of nude women in odd poses, often submerged in pools or tubs. It was discovered in 1912 by a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich, and since then, no one has managed to make sense of the text. Some think it's a lost language. Others say it's a hoax. One scientist claims he's identified 10 words, but no one agrees. Despite that, some recent studies argue that the structure of the writing looks natural, like a real language. The manuscript now lives at Yale University, drawing endless interest from cryptographers, historians, and code breakers who still can't decide if it's genius, gibberish, or something in between. Liberlintius. The Liberlintius is a cloth-wrapped mystery. I mean, like, for real. And you can Google it. Found used as bandages around an Egyptian mummy, it's one of the longest surviving Etruscan texts, written in a language we still don't fully understand. Dating back more than 2,200 years, this linen text was likely created in Italy before somehow ending up in Egypt. Today, both the mummy and the fabric are preserved in the Zagreb Museum in Croatia. Scholars originally thought the writing was a funerary calendar, but more recently it's been classified as a ritual calendar, even though the names of months don't appear until several columns in. That uncertainty hasn't stopped researchers from picking it apart for decades. In ancient Egypt, it was common to reuse old materials, and because Mediterranean trade was so active, it's entirely possible this Etruscan document ended up in Egypt through trade routes. The fabric's survival is extraordinary, and the writing remains a puzzle. While some words and phrases are known, the full message is still locked behind a language that's only been partially deciphered. The Antikythera inscriptions. Discovered in 1901, the Antikythera mechanism, widely regarded as the world's first analog computer, is a complex arrangement of bronze gears and plates. Its mechanical depth has long mystified historians and engineers, but recent technological breakthroughs have helped researchers restore and decode the faint inscriptions on the device, offering new insights into its usage and origin. Dated to approximately 6070 BC, the Antikythera mechanism was recovered by sponge divers from a Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, Greece. Initially dismissed as a corroded mass of bronze and wood, its significance only came to light when internal gear systems were identified. The mechanism consists of over 30 interlocking gears and is mounted within a wooden casing, with inscriptions covering nearly every visible surface. Written in ancient Greek, these inscriptions serve as a kind of technical manual. They're engraved on the front and back plates, as well as around the dials and rotating components. Deciphering them has been an enormous challenge. Most of the text had faded due to heavy corrosion, but technologies like X-ray computed tomography and 3D scanning have allowed scholars to recover sections of the writing. These revealed staggering details about the device's capabilities and the astronomical expertise of its builders. The inscriptions refer to the Metonic cycle, a 19-year lunar-solar calendar alignment, as well as the Saros cycle, used to predict eclipses every 18 years, and the Callipic cycle, a 76-year system for refining calendar accuracy. They also contain instructions for tracking the moon's irregular motion across the sky, a feat modeled within the mechanism's intricate gearwork. Beyond lunar phases, the inscriptions likely included guidance on predicting eclipses, a great accomplishment for ancient astronomers with both scientific and religious implications. Some experts also think the device may have tracked planetary positions, though this remains under investigation. The study of the Antikythera mechanism's inscriptions continues, with each deciphered phrase deepening our understanding of its purpose and the sheer intellectual reach of ancient Greek science. Every translated line pulls us closer to recognizing the incredible sophistication that existed long before the rise of modern tech. The Phaistos disc. The Phaistos disc looks simple. A round clay disc stamped with symbols, but it's been driving experts mad for over a century. Found at the Minoan Palace of Phaistos in Crete, the disc is about 3,700 years old and covered on both sides with a spiral of characters. There are 241 stamped symbols total, made up of 45 distinct designs. No one's sure what they mean. Some of the signs resemble humans, tools, birds, or plants. The layout is tidy, deliberate, and strangely modern. Some archaeologists think it's an early form of writing, maybe used in rituals or for recording stories. Others think it's more symbolic than linguistic. Many have tried to decode it, but no one agrees on what it says. The problem? No other examples of this script exist. Without a reference point, it's like trying to solve a crossword in a language with no alphabet. That's what keeps the disc legendary. It's one object, one mystery, and possibly one message we may never read. The Ebers Papyrus. The Ebers Papyrus, discovered in the mid-19th century, has baffled and fascinated scholars, historians, and medical experts alike. Its contents, a strange mix of medical treatments and magical spells, offer an extraordinary window into the complex world of ancient Egyptian medicine, where the mystical and the empirical were inseparably intertwined. The Ebers Papyrus, named after the German Egyptologist Georg Ebers, who acquired it in 1873, dates to around 1550 BC. That places it among the oldest and most comprehensive medical text ever unearthed. It's believed to have been composed during Egypt's 18th dynasty, an era of cultural brilliance and wealth. The papyrus itself stretches over 20 meters long and contains close to 700 magical formulas and therapeutic remedies. It covers a wide range of issues, from dental pain, skin diseases, and stomach troubles to psychological ailments and heart conditions. The document's path to the modern world is as elusive as the text itself. It was reportedly discovered tucked between the legs of a mummy in the Theban necropolis. The details surrounding Georg Ebers' acquisition remain hazy, steeped in the secrecy and opportunism that define 19th century antiquities trading. Translating the text was a monumental feat that revealed a civilization where healing and spirituality coexisted, offering rare insight into the medical landscape of a society that thrived over 3,000 years ago. Among the many curious remedies, a few stand out for their bizarre nature. One contraceptive involved crocodile dung mixed with honey and sodium carbonate. Surprisingly, modern researchers note that the alkaline content might have offered some effectiveness. For migraines, a clay crocodile figurine stuffed with herbs was tied to the patient's head using a linen band inscribed with divine names. While spiritual in origin, the cool clay may have provided actual pain relief. The papyrus also includes incantations for treating epilepsy, blending practical prescriptions with ritual chants meant to expel malevolent spirits. While much of the Ebers Papyrus can be understood using today's medical lens, certain portions remain puzzling. The fusion of empirical advice with ritualistic spells continues to raise deep questions about how ancient Egyptians perceived illness and healing. Yet as modern researchers explore it further, they continue to uncover astonishing overlaps between this ancient text and contemporary approaches, revealing a medical system far more advanced than once assumed. Well, we really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.